For many years, the Triton has been the underdog of the dual cab world, but they've been much cheaper, and that attractive cheap price tag has driven people to buy these things. The new 2024 Triton really hasn't carried on the cheaper price tag. It's more in line with the higher spec dual cab utes. So today we're going to put these things to the test. We've got a brand new 2024 Triton. We've got an older model Triton. We're going to put these through their paces. We're going to do some forward driving. We're going to do some sand driving, even some towing, and see if the price hike is really valid.
I've brought a professional to help me compare these Tritons. This is Colin. He's been part of the EFS research and development team for over 20 years, and in total, Colin has close to 50 years of experience making springs. He's probably forgotten more about suspension than people actually know. We're going to find out everything you need to know about this new Triton. We're putting the old MR Triton up against the new 2024 MV Triton, with both being completely stock. The new MV boasts some key improvements over the previous model. A longer chassis, a new bi-turbo engine, a totally overhauled design, improved suspension system, and a significantly higher towing capacity. On paper, it looks like Mitsubishi has gone back to the drawing board on a lot of aspects of the Triton to bring it up to spec with some serious competition with the other manufacturers.
Now, don't be mistaken, this thing isn't just a facelift from the old model, it's pretty much a completely new car. They've got a whole revised, brand new chassis, it's much bigger, it's actually got a longer wheelbase.
The wheelbase of the new Triton being the biggest difference compared to previous generation. Other dimensions did change too, they added a little bit to the width, but the most dramatic one was the longer wheelbase. It's got a totally different suspension design, and the steering has been changed. It's no longer hydraulic, it's electric assist, and it makes it so much different to drive. So let's get these things up on the hoist and compare the differences. All right, Cole, let's take a look at the suspension on both these models. There's meant to be some big changes and they're both completely standard.
Yep.
So
nothing's been changed.
Yeah, we'll chuck them up and have a look, see what we can work out.
Right, looking at the front, some of the major problems, they're not really problems, you know, just issues, I suppose, with the Triton was where this upper control arm's located. At full droop, like I can just get a finger in there now, and that's on a standard bodied shock. Now you put a big body shock in where that hits at full droop, and then you can replace this droop stop here with a thinner one that allows that to come down a bit further, and that even gets closer. So you have to replace the upper control arms with a 50mm lift at least in the Triton. So there's an extra expense there with that. Righto, here we are under the rear end of the MR Triton. Have a look at the rear suspension. Yeah, Jess, you were saying something earlier that the new MV has a bigger chassis.
Yeah, obviously these ones are prone to cracking and bending because there's so much weight over the back. Yeah. Now the new one, the wheelbase is longer and the chassis is much bigger, but even just looking at this, it does look a little bit small, and it's sort of next down there right where you want it to be strong.
Yeah, well, you do see a lot of videos and pictures of them where they've broken their backs, and that's such a short wheelbase there, in out the back. It happens.
Lots of overhang,
Lots of overhang.
And there's been, I believe, there's been lots of problems with pinion angle and drivetrain vibration in these models.
Well, these have that centre bearing up in here.
Yeah, and you can't really lower that at all, can you?
No, we have a cage, it changes it a bit, but some people actually do a one-piece shaft, which fixes all that problem. And the leaf spring, like that's a 4+2. That's a fairly chunky leaf spring. Yeah. It's been in there forever and a day. They haven't really changed. The sand scoop, Jess?
This is almost like a mask you used to wear during COVID to try and mask a drive-line vibration problem, isn't it?
That's exactly it. Yeah. It's hiding an issue. So, always been there. People take them off. I don't think you really notice much difference. I don't know if that's knocking an oscillation out that's in the drive
it's only 4 bolts and straight in the scrap bin, I reckon.
Get rid of it.
Well, that's everything MR Triton. There's definitely a few problems with them, a few little issues that are meant to be fixed in the new one. I'm keen to have a look and see.
Well, we'll soon see.
At the end of the day, they are still a good car.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, great car. Fantastic. Do what they're built to do.
Exactly, yeah. But I am keen to have a look under this new one. On paper, there's meant to be a lot of changes.
There's to be a lot of changes.
Can you get it up there and have a look?
Looking at the front of the MV Triton here, what have they changed? Well, they've changed a lot. It's a different strut, upper arm assembly here, different upright, but it's all the same length. So what they've done is they've put a peg leg in the bottom here, which brought the strut up. Now, the previous model Triton, or Pajero, had this type of strut top with a cup in it, so it pushed everything down. This one here is flat, so everything's come up. And what that's given is that clearance for this upper control arm and everything. Whereas remember the previous one had an issue with if you come down too much droop, or you lift it up, or you put a bigger body shock in, you had to replace the upper control arm because it would foul on the shock absorber at full droop. Moving back underneath, Even got the anti-wobble-aided device here.
Yeah, the old track grader is still on there.
Yeah.
They fixed a few problems. You thought they could have just moved that to maybe a better spot for a full drive.
We're looking at the leaf springs here.
Yeah, they look a lot less leaves in these new ones.
It looks the same as some of the other brands nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, like if you look at your D-Maxes and that sort of stuff, they nearly looks the same. Well, it does look the same until you put a tape measure on, you find that it's a different length. We've had these out, obviously, and rated, and they're around your £200 for that top section per inch. So,
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, which is pretty much your run-of-the-mill for all these four-wheel drives nowadays.
Yeah.
One thing about Mitsubishi, they do have 2 suspension options in the rear.
Okay.
And the difference is this.
The big load leaf in
This
there.
big load leaf. You know, like the GSR, it only has this leaf.
Yeah, and what did they take that out for a bit of comfort, you reckon? I
reckon that's exactly, you know, it's for a softer ride because when you get a load in it, this supports it.
Yeah, that holds it, yeah.
So that's one thing they've changed.
Yeah.
Your shock absorbers, slightly on an angle, backwards and forwards again.
Yeah.
They've given us not a lot of clearance around crevices again, so we have to be clever with our lower design of the bigger bodied shocks. They've changed it, but kept it the same.
Yeah. The probably biggest change under here is the wheelbase is longer now, isn't it?
Yeah, and you see the other tank, they've got an AdBlue thing hanging in there.
Oh, that's becoming a thing in heaps of new cars, isn't it? Modern diesels.
Yep. Yeah, a bit of AdBlue. But yeah, all in all, different but still the same.
Refined, you'd say.
Refined, that's a perfect way of putting it. Yeah, so it's refined. And as you saw in the previous model, Jess, you know, it's different ride characteristics.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I'm keen to do some towing with this new one and compare the two.
See how they go, yeah.
The gap between a Triton and the other utes isn't as big now, I guess.
No, if you have a look at what we've seen under there, it's all looking pretty much the same.
Yeah.
It's the same but different.
Yeah, same but different. More refined. They've fixed a few problems, which is good to see.
They've brought the level up.
Yeah.
If you're looking to upgrade your new Triton suspension, EFS will offer suspension packages and GVM upgrades to enhance the ride and greatly improve the carrying capacity. Keep an eye on their website for news and updates. Both Tritons have a 2.4 litre diesel engine, but while the old one being a single turbo, the new one is a bi-turbo, helping reduce turbo lag, resulting in a smoother driving experience. This combined with a completely redesigned engine has resulted in power gains at 40 Nm of torque.
Going along with the bi-turbo setup, they've completely changed the gear ratios in the 6-speed automatic transmission, so the power comes on super linear, there's almost no lag, and driving it is it's a real nice experience. It's super smooth, the power's linear, and it's very usable. One thing to note, that this is the first ever Triton that actually requires AdBlue to run. Now, a lot of people are screwing their nose up at this. I knew the new Ford Ranger requires it and a few other dual cab utes, but come a couple of years, this is going to be super common across the board, but it's just something to remember if you're going remote. You've got to make sure you carry some with you.
With the introduction of AdBlue into the dual cab market, there's been a bit of a debate on whether or not this system is going to be reliable. As it's such new technology, we don't actually know how well these emission systems will last in the long run, or how much cost it might bring to the table if there is a failure. One thing to remember though is the 10-year manufacturer's warranty that comes with them if you're buying new. So if there is any issues, they'll be covered.
Oh, she's got a bit of go. First drive in the new and improved MV Triton. I've only been about a kilometre so far, but it drives real nice. It's got a fair bit of go down low. The brakes work super well. Pretty good driving position, really.
As a car, they drive pretty good. They do everything they have to do, and they do it well. Yeah, those little bumps in the road, you feel them, and they give you that little bit of a kick. You can fix that. You can tune that out with a decent set of shocks and stuff. But as it is for now, it's feels good.
One component that is basically identical on both these Tritons is the brake systems. Both models share the same rotors, same calipers, and even the same drums in the rear, with these parts even sharing the same part numbers. While there's nothing wrong with the brakes used, it's important to note the new Triton is around 150 kg heavier, but has the same brakes, so its braking performance won't be the same.
Sitting inside the new Triton, it is quite flash. I love the driving position. You can see over the bonnet nice and easy. I love that this new entertainment system has knobs for zooming and for the volume. That is super handy and it's hard to find these days. All the buttons are easy to get to. Aircon controls there. You can do them while you're still looking at the road. Rear diff lock button, super easy and accessible. The shift has got a manual mode, full drive. It's actually pretty easy. The thing I was super concerned about, and I'd read heaps of bad things about online, is this driver monitoring system.
This system monitors the driver's face with a camera on top of the steering column to detect driver drowsiness. It's part of the safety system and how the Triton achieves its 5-star ANCAP safety rating. But there's been a fair bit of discussion about the less than stellar implementation of the system.
But to be honest, it hasn't even been that bad, and I've heard that there's a bit of a recall and software update needs to make them even better. So overall, it's definitely a pretty big upgrade from the older model Tritons, but it's definitely no game changer on the interior update here. Jocko and myself are going to be down at the Sydney Four Wheel Drive and Adventure Show at Eastern Creek on the 6th to the 8th of September, and here's 3 reasons why you should go. It's got the best bargains to all your full drive, camping and fishing gear.
And with over 200 exhibitors, it's your best chance to check out some camping gear, some 4-wheel-drive gear, or maybe that cheeky caravan you've been eyeing off.
And it's got some of the wildest 4-wheel drive builds on display. Jock and I will be there all weekend, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. We can't wait to meet all you guys, so come on down.
Now get your tickets online at sydney.4wheeldriveshow.com.au, and if you use the discount code 4WD247, that'll put a little bit more cash back into your pocket that you can spend on mods. Jesse and I will see you there. Can't wait, mate.
It could be good.
Now let's take a look at the pricing of these Tritons. Today we're testing the GLX Plus variants of both these Tritons, which is around mid-range in terms of tiering. The old MR Triton launched in 2019 for around $43,000, while the new MV Triton launched in 2024 is around $53,000, a significant price difference compared to previous generation. But to put it in perspective, a 2024 similar tier LS D-Max costs around $56,000 and an SR Hilux costs around $60,000. Another great thing going for the Triton is the 10-year, 200,000 kilometer warranty. This will give you peace of mind that it covers all the new technology. But do note, it's only that warranty if you do all the servicing at Mitsubishi dealerships or an authorised Mitsubishi service dealer.
Well, it's no secret that Tritons have always been a bit of a weapon off-road. They're a little bit lighter than the other utes in the market, and the wheelbase is a little bit shorter. But the all-new Triton, it's longer, it's wider, it's a little bit heavier, so I was super keen to put head-to-head with an old one off-road and see how they fare. Now, the new one does come with a couple of fancy tech features. It's got a rock mode, so it dampens the throttle and holds first gear for longer. It's got a mud mode, that makes the throttle response heaps quicker and snaps the gear changes super quick. And it's got hill descent control and of course a factory rear locker like the older models had. So let's put them head to head and see what we reckon. First time off-roading in the new Triton. Quite a cool feature. I've got this 360 camera on. It looks like there is a helicopter above me. I can see everything around me. I've got the rear camera on. It's even got a front camera. So that's pretty cool. The gearing in this thing, I haven't driven the other one yet. I'm keen to see what the other one's like, but it's first gear low. You're still on the brakes a little bit on a standard size tyre. The flex in the standard suspension, it's not too bad. Like I am lifting wheels here and there, but the rear lock is holding it nice and steady. Loving this camera setup. As I said, it's probably on most modern cars, but I'm not a modern car dude. The steering on this is unreal. I believe it's electric rack they've gone to on this model. No matter what you're doing, it is super, super light. I'm definitely touching the side steps a little bit. I think that's due to the longer wheelbase. Now this is looking fairly wild. Fair bit of undulation there, and I didn't even lift the wheel, which is quite impressive. Lifted wheel at the top had the rear locker on, factory rear locker as most dual cabs come with. Hold you nice and steady on the hill. Quite impressive really.
Look, seriously, stock standard suspension, they're not lifted.
They move a fair bit.
They move a fair bit, yeah they do.
And the camera on this thing, like it's probably a modern car thing, but I'm not used to modern cars. I had the camera on the whole time and I could see where I'm going. Oh.
Yeah, 360 degree cameras, they do make them better.
Yeah, definitely. Uphill, the gearing's real nice. I'm actually left foot braking, bit of acceleration just so everything's nice and smooth. Parking sensors are going crazy, but other than that, pretty impressive off-road. The stall on the converter seems pretty punchy too, so if you need to give it a bop to get up anything, it definitely gets the job done. For a bog stock ute, kind of impressive really.
We've swapped over and I've got the new one, the MV Triton. It's definitely different, so all the hype about Mitsubishi's upgrades. Yeah, as far as the rear suspension goes, it's definitely more compliant than the MR. It feels really nice.
I'm in the MR Triton, the earlier model, and straight away the suspension almost feels a little bit stiffer. Everything feels a bit more bumpier, but this one does have a little bit more lag, but low range takes that away, I guess, being the single bigger turbo. I can't really pinpoint a couple of differences. Vision out of this earlier MR is probably better over the bonnet, but the other one's got the camera on the infotainment system, so sort of makes up for it there. It feels a little bit narrower. Well, it is a bit narrow and it's a bit shorter, so it's more nimble off-road. I think the width of the other one does make it feel a bit more stable on angles you can get. This one does feel a bit tippy, but you know, if you know your car and you're not too jerky on the brakes, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, they're both a good thing. It's a tough call off-road. I don't think the updates have changed much. Obviously they've changed a lot, but in off-road performance, it's hard to pick apart. But Tritons, whether it's new or old, weapon off-road, I reckon. We're on the sand in the new Triton, and I tell you what, I'm in high range, and you might struggle to do this in the other one in high range. The bi-turbo setup, it's got so much torque and power down low, even if you bog down the soft stuff, it just picks up and takes off again. It was a little bit tricky getting this thing out of traction control mode because that kept taking my power away from me. It's in the system down here and you've got to scroll on the steering wheel, but once I worked that out, it was actually pretty easy to get off. One thing I've noticed, I think it's just standard suspension thing though, is I'm bellying out a lot in these ruts along here. It's nice and soft sand, so it's not the end of the world. Of course, if you buy a ute, you're going to upgrade your suspension and bash plate. So like I said, those dramas will be no dramas anymore, but cruising along in the soft sand in high range, and it's actually cruising along quite nicely.
Let the tyre pressure's down to 18 psi. We're just running up in the soft stuff. Great to drive on the sand. Plenty of power, good traction, perfect. The old MR Triton, that's absolutely perfect for this.
One thing the Tritons have always lacked in is towing capacity, but not with this brand new model. You can finally tow 3.5 tonne with your Triton, and that is thanks to the new chassis and suspension design. I'm in the mighty new Triton, and I've just hooked on 2.5 tonne on the back. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say I can't feel it. I can definitely feel it. It's obviously 2.5 tonne, you feel that in any car, but it's still driving quite nice, and I think the wheelbase, the longer wheelbase is coming into play here. We're hitting a few bumps, and with the standard suspension, it is a little bit wallowy, but it's tracking quite nicely. You know, you can turn a corner, hit a bump, and it doesn't unsettle the car too much. It's definitely hunting between gears a little bit. It might take the auto a little bit to work out what gear it wants to be in. But you put your foot down, it drops a gear, pick up speed all right. It's not great. It's not a powerhouse, but so far, I think the suspension improvements and the longer wheelbase is really helping with the towing. Like, you go for a bit of a sway, and it straightens up nice. The car feels nice and planted. So, yeah. Well done, Mitsubishi. I reckon you've nailed a few little things here.
I've just hooked up the Maverick. It's got a ball weight of around 230, 235 kilos as it sits, so settled the bum down a little bit. But that's what you'd expect. You've got a bit of weight hanging back there now. I can feel that swaying. Could do with a better quality dampener to sort of control that front as the bum dips. It wants to pick the front up a bit too quick, so that needs to be slowed down a little bit. So maybe, you know, like a heavier rear leaf spring in the back would carry that weight and not bring the nose up as much.
We've switched over. I'm in the older Triton now, and straight away I reckon I can tell the wheelbase difference. The other Triton, you know something's on the back and it's a little bit boaty, but the older MR Triton, it almost doesn't feel as planted in the front. I think that comes down to the rear axle being further forward. So obviously the caravan's putting more leverage on lifting the front up. You've sort of got to drive with two hands on the wheel the whole time, and you're definitely doing all the braking before the corner and just being real careful, because it feels like that front is so light. It almost feels like it's going to lock up, or you're going to turn and that's not going to take the turn. So I think that comes down to Mitsubishi's longer wheelbase in the MV Triton. Now, obviously, there was an issue here and they fixed it. A good thing about the MV Triton too, I think I could be wrong, could correct me on this, but it's the first ever Triton to have a 3.5 tonne towing capacity. These ones, the MRs and all the other models, are 3.1 tonne, whereas the new one's 3.5. But you wouldn't want to tow anything that heavy in one of these, I don't reckon. It just doesn't feel planted and safe type thing. But the new one, chalk and cheese towing, like, I can't even see Colin. He's zoomed off in front of me because that car's so comfortable to drive.
Yeah, well, this car is definitely better than the MR Triton. The front feels better. It feels better in the back. Like the MR was like pitching and seesawing and carrying on, and so you had to have two hands on the wheel. You were really driving it. But this thing here is actually And that'd be to do with the longer wheelbase, the bigger chassis, the different front end, you know, because it would have different geometry. And, you know, the different rear springs, it's a whole different package. This is really, really good. Now, if you were specifically in the market for a Triton and you found yourself a good, clean, tidy, standard MR, I'd nearly spend the extra and get a brand new MV. Like, seriously, the differences are chalk and cheese. Exactly same caravans on the same road, and I'll tell you, totally different.
On previous Ute of the Year, the Triton has always been a top performing Ute off-road straight up the showroom floor. The new Triton is no different. The MV's rear suspension moves through the range a lot better, making it more planted, and the extra power helps on the beach in soft sand. However, we always get a little bit worried with all this new tech in the new model and how to go in remote places like in Cape York or through a lot of mud. It's all good to have a 10-year warranty, but if something goes wrong and the nearest service centre is hundreds or thousands of kilometres away, it's not going to be much help. This is one thing to consider if that's the kind of four-wheel driving you're into.
Righto, Cole, we've tested the new and the old Triton in just about any way we could. We've been on the beach, we've been full driving, we've been in the mud, hill climbs, we've towed some big caravans. What's your thoughts after that? Do you reckon that the new model is worth the higher price?
Well, yes, I think it is.
Definitely.
Like, that brings this car into line with the other brands. Your Hilux mainly.
Yeah.
Your Ford Ranger. But it's really hard to sway those people who've already got that brain set of, I want a Hilux or I want a Ford Ranger.
Yeah.
But if somebody was on the verge of which way do I go,
it's a beautiful car, yeah.
It is a beautiful car to drive, yeah.
Or even if someone's got one of these and they might want to upgrade, they're not sure if it's worth the money, 100% worth the money over that.
100%, exactly.
Completely new car.
Completely new car. And what's the warranty, Jess?
10-year warranty. So they're pretty confident to still stand behind a whole brand new platform. Obviously they've done a fair bit of testing. The tricky thing is though, as Cole said, it's hard to sway people, and I'm probably guilty for that too. We worked out the price difference only, you know, it used to be around nearly 10,000 between this and the D-Max. This and the D-Max now, it's 2,000–3,000. Yeah. So if someone said to me now, I had to buy a car tomorrow to build up as a tourer and do remote stuff, because this car's still so new, to be honest, I'd probably go with the D-Max just because I'm, you know, setting your ways, like you said, it's proven. But this thing, after a couple of years, proving this new platform, I reckon it's a very good thing. And there's probably no reason you couldn't buy this, kit it out and take it around Australia tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's it. And yeah, like the flat front. But a lot of cars are going to that style.
Yeah. I think most new cars, I'm just going to say, are pretty ugly in standard form. You kit this thing out, a bit of bar work, some big tyres, bit of a lift, maybe a tray on the back, it's going to start to look pretty smicko.
It will.
But value for money really comes to play in that model.
It does, doesn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, like
a lot
they
of car
are
for
good.
your cash. Yeah.
You get a lot of car for your cash, a little bit left over to throw a bit of fruit on it and do what you want to do. So it's a fantastic car for that. Really, the big difference I felt was the towing. Like
100%, I felt the same, yeah.
You know, like, and I seen you, I was behind you, and you give that a little whip. Yeah. And I thought, oh, that's game. And then I tried it with mine, and Jesus, I don't want to be doing that too often.
The changes they've done are definitely worth the extra money. As you said before, it's on the same level as a D-Max, Range, all those sort of other cars now with the new tech, the longer wheelbase, the higher towing capacity, good payload. I'd pay asking price for one of them. I can see the value in it. Well, there you have it. That's our thoughts on the new versus the old Triton. What about you guys? What's your thoughts? Chuck a couple comments down below. Tell us what you reckon about the new one. Tell us if you got an old one and you love it or not. You think about upgrading maybe. Anyway, that's all we've got time for today, Cole. We'll see you next time on Full Drive 24/7.